Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. March is done. March is over, which is crazy. We're already now 1/4 done of this year and 1 month closer to me turning 31, which is disgusting. Oh my god, I cannot deal with this. But let's talk about all the books that I've either read or listened to in the month of March. So I only have this little pile to show for like what I've accomplished this month, but I read 4 books and I listened to 2 audiobooks, so obviously 6 in total. But I only have my Kindle and this one book. Another book that I read, I actually already gave to one of my girlfriends because sharing is caring, and I really needed to hear her thoughts on the book that I gave her. But we'll talk about that shortly. I want to start off strong with my favorites of this month. And I want to start with the audiobook because the audiobook that I listened to, I gave a 5 stars. It's honestly my first 5-star of this entire year. I loved this book. I ate it up. And that is Julie Chen is Dead. I picked up this audiobook because it was one of Kayla Books and Lala's favorite books. And I loved it from the beginning to the end. I loved learning how other people feel about influencers because I have my own opinion. This book is such a big book on social commentary about who gets to be an influencer, why they have a following, what rights do race play into social media, which is such an important topic. This book is following a girl who grew up kind of poor, kind of mistreated, and her twin sister who grew up in an adoptive white family goes on to be an influencer. And the misconceptions that she had about her sister's life and all the things that go into becoming an influencer and living within that realm. It does get quite intense in this one scene that I was listening to. I was like, I need to walk away. This is icky. But I would say this book is a thriller, social commentary, sort of mystery because there's an aspect where you need to figure out what happened. I ate this book up. I'm obviously just starting my journey on social media, on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. Follow, like, subscribe, all that BS. And so it was such an interesting book to listen to right now because it's a world that I'm trying to step into, but in a very different aspect than the realm that they were living in. And it's just funny to see things that are so kind of meta and of its time, and just being a parallel of now me going on a platform and speaking about it when that's an influencer's job. It's just everything was so, I want to say meta, but there must be another word for it. I loved this book. I wanted it to continue. I wanted to know further after the story actually ended, what happens to Julie even after the book ends. And I think that stands to show that I was invested in the character. And I think oh my gosh, what's the author's name? Hold on. Lian Zhang. I think she did a phenomenal job. I believe this is actually her debut novel, which is incredible. I can't wait to see what other books she comes out with. Whatever she writes next, I will probably pick it up just on the sole factor of how much I loved Julie Chen is Dead. On to the next one. Let's talk about, what should we talk about? My favorite book that I physically read. See, the thing is, I read 4 physical books, whether it's an actual hard copy or on my Kindle, and they were all super important, well, bar one. They were all super important, but for vastly different reasons. So let's actually just talk about First Time Caller. This is a fantastic rom-com romance book. I think this is 4.75 out of 5 stars in my books. Everybody really enjoys this book. A lot of people love it on TikTok, YouTube, all the socials people love, and with good reason. The only thing that held me back from giving it a 5-star was in the first 2/3 of this book, I really enjoyed the male main character, Aiden. And let's back up. You follow a couple, 2 people that eventually, spoiler, become a couple because it's a romance book. But you follow 2 people that get put together by chance, sort of. Aiden is a radio host for a romance line show, And then there's Lucy, and Lucy's daughter, she's a single mom, but still has like a big community around her, the father of her child and his husband, her best friend, her colleagues. Her daughter actually calls into Aiden's romance show and says, I'm like worried, like I want my mom to be happy. She hasn't dated like my entire life, basically. I don't want her to be lonely. And that's how these two characters meet. And everybody really likes the vulnerability that Lucy provides. And that's how she ends up being like sort of a guest host on his show. And I think Lucy speaks so openly and clearly about how she knows what she wants, but she also doesn't know what she wants. And she has tried really hard to put herself out there, and she's done trying. Like her stance on trying to find a partner and somebody to love is very relatable, I feel like, especially as a woman who has to do so many things and be all these things for so many different people. I thought she was such a clear and concise character. And I thought the same for Aiden for a while too. I thought he was very like emotionally intelligent and mature for a lot of it. He talks about family struggles that he has, feeling a little burnt out at work. And I felt his character also was very relatable until like the last third of the book, when he sort of just became like a whiny male stereotype character for me. He became very much of, oh, I'm going to give you everything, but I can't actually give you what you want. It's like, okay, well, are you willing to give Lucy everything, or can you not give her everything? Like, you need to piss or get off the pot. I love that expression, but you can't be both. You can't be saying, oh, I love you so much, I'm going to give you the world, but this one thing that you want, I can't give for you. So that knocked him down a little bit, which in turn knocked down the story overall a little bit for me, because I don't appreciate characters that do that. I think if you do truly love somebody, you are going to show up every day and show up in your best ability. And so when he was like that, I was like, you are so close to being such a good male main character, and you just fell short in the last bit of it. That being said, I really did enjoy this book. I was rooting for them. I was rooting for him to just like get over himself and like move on and again get over himself, which he does. It's just, why do women have to deal with men like being forced to get over themselves, if that makes sense? This is a first book in a series, and before I even finished this book, I did purchase the second one in the series, which follows Aiden's coworker / best friend, who I'm now forgetting his name. But I liked that character enough, even though he wasn't a main character in this book, and so I'm really excited to follow his story and whoever his love interest is. And so I bought that secondhand, so I'm waiting for that to arrive from Vinted, and I'm really excited, and I will probably prioritize it, so you will probably be seeing it in my April reading wrap-up as well. So again, I really enjoyed this book. I think for a romance book, this is probably the best romance book I've ever read, because romance sometimes like really just cringes me out and makes me have secondhand embarrassment, which I don't like secondhand embarrassment in any of my medias, but I really enjoyed this. So yeah, I would highly recommend this book. Let's move on to the book that I rated the second highest, and that is Listen for Lies. I read it on my beloved little Kindle. I love a book that has another element based inside of it. And what I mean by that is that this book follows our main character, which, what is my problem? And I love a book, and then immediately after, I could not tell you the main character's name. But we have this book based around a girl who is not accused by the courts, but accused by social opinions, people's opinions of her hometown for murdering her best friend. And a man who has previously made a true crime podcast now is making a podcast based off of like her situation and her best friend's murder. I love books that have a podcast in it or a documentary. That's why I really liked the reappearance of Rachel Price, because they were filming a documentary in that book. Loved it. This has a podcast, or if there's emails or letters, like some kind of external media that's also brought into the book, I'm a really big fan of. When books have that, I usually score them quite high. So that being said, I gave Listen for Lies a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. This was a book that my husband kept trying to interact with me, and I was like, sir, I need to finish this. I need to know how this story wraps up. I'm locked in. I read it everywhere. I read it on the metro. I read it on the treadmill when I was doing my steps for the day. I read it all the time until I finished it, and I think it honestly took me less than 3 days to read the entire book. I loved it so much. You follow, like I said, a woman who is experiencing, since this situation happened, memory loss about the night that her best friend was murdered. And then she goes home for her grandmother's birthday, and her grandmother is definitely pushing her to like come back home and do the podcast and remember things, because she thinks the grandmother knows the girl better than the girl knows herself. And she does come back home and she starts to talk to people, and slowly and surely she remembers things, and she does do this podcast even though some people think it's better that she doesn't speak. And obviously eventually you find out who the real person who committed the crime was. I would say I was going to give this a 5, and then I guessed correctly who the actual person was, so that does deduct a little bit of points, but nonetheless I really enjoyed this mystery. It showed me that I should be reading more mysteries, because I really got into this, and I really got into Julie Chan, which also has a mystery element to it. So I think I'm going to be reading more mysteries coming up, and I'm excited. So once again, I would highly recommend this book. Now talking about the book that I actually gave to my friend because I want all of my girlfriends to read it, and that is I Who've Never Known Men. I gave this book a personal 4, an objective global, I think it's a 5, because I think I've Never Known Men is such an important book. I think it's a book that needs to be read in schools, especially with middle schoolers and high schoolers, or even college educated people. I think this book is super, super important to question how we see genders in society, what our purpose is, what everybody's purpose is, why are we here on this earth, why do things happen, why do governments do things. This book is a very short book, but it feels a lot longer than how many pages it is, if that makes sense. I think it's like around like 200 and something. It's not long at all, and it's split into 3 parts, but it just feels so bigger than how short it actually is. I didn't know before reading this, but I've Never Known Men is actually written in French because the author is Belgium, and it was published a while ago. So when I saw everybody talking about it on social media, I just assumed that it was a recent publish, but it's not true. I read it in English. The original is Moi qui, Moi qui n'ai pas connu les hommes, the French title. One day I would love to be able to read it in French. I think you need to read this book in your own mother tongue though, because there's so much that happens and so many beautiful quotes and so much that I think you would miss if you didn't read it in your mother tongues. But so maybe one day I will be having a French level that's good enough to read it in the original version, but today was not that day. I did give it a 4 just based on the sole factor that me as a reader, I like to know things, I want to know. And this book, you don't know anything. You know nothing, Jon Snow. I don't even know if that's the right quote. I've never seen Game of Thrones. But in this book, you don't know anything from start to finish. And if you are a reader that likes to know, sometimes it's very frustrating. You have all these questions and you're like, please just tell me. You're not going to know. And if you are a reader that doesn't care about knowing, this book will be great for you. But I think everybody should read this book. I think it should be mandatory reading in schools, which is why it's probably honestly banned in some states, I would imagine, because it's so important. And even in the back, it talks about, and then acknowledgements, it talks about books like George Orwell's 1984, Margaret Atwood's Handmaid's Tale. Like, it's in the same scope as these important books that talk about the bigger picture. So this book is so important. Please read it. And let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions on Child and how you felt about her and how you interpret her importance. I would say my least favorite book of this month is Curses, Chaos, and Courtrooms. This is the second in a series, and the first one was Potions, Poisons, and Policies. Yes. I actually read this first book because I saw the author on TikTok, and I was like, oh, like she's so passionate about like the book that she just wrote. It seems like something I would enjoy. It's like lighthearted, whimsical fantasy, romantasy, let me give it a go. And it was on Kindle Unlimited, so I was like, oh, perfect. And I actually really enjoyed it. It doesn't have the best reviews, honestly, on Goodreads, which I enjoyed my time with the first book, so I think you should give the first one a go. The second one took a turn for me. It had a subject matter that I'm not comfortable usually reading. I should have maybe checked trigger warnings before starting this book, just because that is a topic that I try to steer clear of. And it just was a lot of a heavier book than the first one. Like the first one, they were trying to solve like who was causing these issues on their campus, and it's like this British wizardry school, and it was sort of more on a lighthearted tone, where this one took a little bit more of a heavier, darker tone. And it's just not the vibe that I was hoping that it would be. I think I gave it a 3. I was hoping, which a 3 is like kind of generous. I feel bad because this author seems like, I don't know, she was just so sweet on her TikToks, and like I really wanted to like it. I just didn't get on with it. And that's not to say that you might not like it. I think maybe you should check it out if you enjoyed the first one, or maybe start with the first one and see what you think about it. But I don't think I'll continue in the series if there's one in the future. And then lastly was another audiobook that I listened to, and that is How to Kill a Date in 10 Days. This is marketed as a romantic slasher, which that is honestly the only reason why I started listening to this book, because I was like, what can that honestly mean? What can this entail? Like, I don't understand how you can have a romantic slasher. And to be honest, I still don't know like how I feel about this book. Like at times it was funny, like I actually did laugh when I was listening to it. Do I think I'll ever read another slasher or even romantic slasher? No. That's not my wheelhouse. I don't even know how to talk about this book, honestly. My favorite thing about this book actually though is the chapters. Every chapter is a play on a romantic comedy movie or book. For example, like take the title, like How to Kill a Guy in 10 Dates. Or there was a chapter that's like When Harry Killed / Sally or something like that. Like, and so every single new chapter I was excited to see what the next chapter title was, because I thought those were so funny and like clever. I think if you enjoy sort of like that kind of horror, like a little bit more graphic and let's just you will enjoy it. I think maybe if I enjoyed the romance side of it more, it gets a little spicy. The spice was fun. I just didn't really care that much about the love interests between the main female character and the person that she ends up having a romantic connection with. So I didn't like the slasher part, and I wasn't sold on the romance, but I still had an overall okay, good time with it. So I don't really know what to rate this, but I think a lot of people are actually enjoying it, the people that are either reading it or listening to it. I think it was okay. I think it was a smart idea, but just not for me necessarily, which is fine. But maybe it is for you. So those are the 6 books that I read this month. I felt so good, mainly because of the 4+ stars that I've read this year. Why do I keep saying this year? It's March. This month, I want everybody to read Julie Chan is Dead. I need them to understand and agree with me, because my opinion is the only opinion that matters. Julie Chan is Dead. Or just listen to the positive things about this book. Ignore all the negative. I love Julie Chan is Dead. Please, please, please read it. That's all. If you get nothing else from this video, please get Julie Chan is Dead. It's a great book. And that's all for my first monthly reading wrap up, and I hope you enjoyed it. And if you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts, especially if it's I've Never Known Men. I would love to know your guys' opinion of it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.